Hey everyone, welcome back to the It's My Game podcast. My name is Jade. I'm a personal trainer and mindset coach specializing in HA and ED recovery. Along come with that journey of my own personal HA and ED recovery, which inspired the podcast. And today I'm so excited because one of my favorite things to happen is when listeners become guests. And that is what's happening today. So I'm joined by the wonderful Ladore, who is a personal trainer and weightlifter from the US, who recovered from 11 years of HA. And she's here to share with us how she did it. Welcome, Ladore.
Welcome. Wow, this is so spiritual for me because all of the times that I have listened to the podcasts and it's helped me, and I thought I was in the lowest of the low at some points during recovery, just the depression and of am I ever going to make this? Am I ever going to make it through? Everything. So I'm so honored to be here right now. Really, truly.
I was so excited to be connecting with you in the first place. And then when you reach new levels of your recovery journey, and there is a few levels which we'll definitely dive into today. And to
Oh,
now have
yes.
you on sharing your experience, it's just an absolute blessing because the podcast has reached so many for quite a long time now. I mean, we've been up and running for, I think, 3 going on 4 years. So plenty of listeners have been here for some time. Now, let's dive in. How did your HA begin?
Yes. So I was always like a perfectionist, kind of type A type, like many of us HAers usually are. And when I was in high school, I was a runner. I did track and cross country, and I always had weight issues. I was very self-conscious of that. I originally started running because I just needed a sport. I needed to control my weight. I had asthma. I was just felt like I wanted to lose weight. And so I joined the track team and ended up meeting some of the best friends of my whole life. So it became such a friendship that I continued, and I ended up loving running. And I was always bigger than my friends. I was always bigger than my friends on the team, and it didn't seem to bother me really. They never said anything to me about that. It was never an issue. And looking back, though, there was nothing wrong with my body, but it's the way that I viewed myself. And so then I graduated high school and went to college and discovered the gym there. And I started working out at the gym, learning how to lift weights, learning about the different muscle groups. And I got really into aesthetics and bodybuilding. And I would work out for 2 hours a day and then come back and do another 2 hours later. So that was like 4 hours in the gym. And I just saw my studies as well, something I'll get done in my free time if I have time. And it was like my goal was to work out, and maybe I'll get around to doing my schoolwork. So then the manager of the gym, when I was a freshman, approached me one day and just said, "You are here all the time. Do you want to work here? Do you want a job here?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I never thought about that." So then now I'm working in the gym. I'm around all the exercise science majors and all the personal trainers, and they become my new niche. And so I'm just like working out is life. The only thing that matters is the next workout. But all during this time, though, I'm also very focused on my food, and I'm educating myself through documentaries and online and books about, you know, healthy versus unhealthy food, which is kind of words that we don't like to use in HA recovery world. But at the time, I was ruling out so many foods that I had thought were innocent, but I had deemed them uninnocent. Like I would realize that a pack of trail mix didn't just have nuts in it, it had seed oils, or an innocent protein bar was full of chemicals, stuff like that, where I wouldn't eat anything until I could look online and read about it before putting it into my body. And so this was becoming an obsession for me. And I didn't realize it was that much of an obsession until whenever my family came to visit me, or when friends at college asked if I wanted to go to the dining hall with them, or, just you're 18 years old, so you're going to have moments where, and then the anxiety would creep in. I can't put this into my fitness pal. I don't know what my fitness pal is the tracker. I don't know if they have that in Australia. I don't know if I know the ingredients in this. I'm not comfortable. And this extreme anxiety set in, that I just decided I'm just not going to be social. I'm just going to tell people I'm busy whenever there's food around. I'm not going to eat when there's food around. And it worked for me. It worked for me too well, because then I had limited it down to like probably 15 foods only that I was eating, like the same foods and just yogurt and tofu and egg whites and chicken
Mhm.
and turkey. And then I had started eliminating macros. So first it was ingredients, and then I started realizing I don't want carbs and I don't want fat. So I wouldn't even touch an avocado because of the fat, which is so funny to me because avocados are my favorite. Like, oh my gosh, I eat one every single day. I even have avocado earrings. I have an avocado keychain. Like that's my favorite food. And HA took that away from me. Or more so the disordered eating took that away from me. So um I was just very extreme. I wouldn't even eat fruit because I had sugar.
Mm.
So all of this is happening and my period goes missing at age 19, at the end of freshman year in college. And I was lifting weights and running half marathons and just as much as I could do in one day all the time. And so it was just go, go, go. And um, I went to my doctor when I came home from college and asked her about the missing period. And she just put me on the birth control pill and said, that's fine. Don't worry. You'll get a period. It's all good. So I trusted her and just thought, great. Now I was so afraid I would have to change my lifestyle here because obviously I had a period before the lifestyle happened. So it's got to be due to that. So then I get on the pill and life is good. And I'm what I think to be cycling again. And then I graduated and still continued lifting 2+ hours a day, very heavy weights. Um, I would do as much as 100 pull-ups a day sometimes. And it's wild to me because I ate 1,700 calories and like 30 grams of fat. And I'm just like, how did I do that? Because now, after being recovered, still like a 45-minute workout can like kick my ass, even when I am totally nourished, just because like this is hard work, and of course we'll talk about it later, but I listen to my body and I take those cues when I need to. But I was just heavily caffeinated and ended up getting a job. I mean, like in order to, work out like that, I ended up getting a job as a personal trainer and I just got so much praise for my body. I mean, you could see my six pack at all times and my veins and everything. I mean, you get it, Jade. So I got lots of praise and everyone said to me, what do you eat? Like, I want to eat what you eat, and wow. And, or Ladore, would you eat this? Is this good? Is this healthy? Like I was the guru. But honestly, though, what they didn't know, they had no idea like what my life was actually like. Like, this is not normal. I was like a stressed out mammal. I was like an animal in fight or flight. Like, really, that's what's happening.
It can be
Um,
a really
you
tricky
know,
dynamic too when you're in the health and fitness space and
absolutely.
you're a role model and a leader to people who actually have a lot of wiggle room to make better choices. And because they
Hmm.
don't know much, they just know if you look a particular way, you must have the answers. And I know that's one way
Absolutely.
I felt when I was personal training and I had HA and, I was jacked, is that I would inspire
Yeah.
so many people to make healthier choices. And I loved that I could do that. And it was just a shame that half the reason they felt inspired to do so was because of a physical appearance versus, I guess, a holistic approach. Because even now, how I look is incredibly healthy and I've still got muscles and whatnot, but I'm not how I was. But that perception
Right.
of you look that way, so you have all the answers, it
Hmm.
creates a pressure to stay the same in a multi-level dynamic, I guess is the best way I can put it, is because from a business perspective, we're a wonderful marketing tool because people look
Oh
at you
yeah.
and just go, oh, I trust you. Clearly
I
you're
mean, it's
doing
like
it.
your body.
Right.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
your body is your business card, right?
absolutely. And in all
Yeah.
honesty, till this day, it's I don't know about you, but lead generation wise, when I was working in gyms and looked that way, clients come in so much easier because they don't know what questions to ask from a
Yeah.
trainer or what they should be looking for. So they just go face value. And so you've got that element, like it helps your business flourish. You got the other element of people sort of, they trust you more to ask questions because, again, they go by, you look that way, clearly you know what you're doing. And then it feels really good to help people and see them make change. And it's not as though any of the decisions we make around food and exercise we would recommend our clients to do, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Like
Yes.
there would never be a moment, not even for a second, where I would have said, "Here's what I eat. Here's how I train. You go." Never.
Yeah, go. I never did that
But
ever.
if it was like,
Never.
oh, just make sure you're having a side of salad with your lunch, like eat some veggies at dinner, make sure you're having your protein, all those little basic things that are really, really helpful, um,
Right.
people would actually do and see their weight loss results or perhaps start to see muscle definition. And you see how excited they get. And then you get excited for them. And it
Right.
does put you in a weird realm where, fast forward where you do want to make change, it can be quite scary because you don't want to lose that with the people that you're sort of role modeling to.
Mm-mm.
And it's a dynamic that I think only like PTs and perhaps nutritionists and people in other health areas experience versus someone who works in a different industry, is because you don't want to let go of your capacity to help someone purely because you're on a healing journey. Like, go figure.
Right.
You're actually getting healthier
Exactly.
and you run the risk of not
It's like
being able
I'm
to
actually
help
getting
as many
healthier.
people.
Right.
Yeah. Um, did you find that when you were making, like, so obviously you're your own business card, as you said, in the gym, people are trusting you. And was there a time where you were so caught up in the life that you were just thriving, right? Like everything's going, business is flourishing, training like a demon, your nutrition's on point, quotation marks, perhaps school's going really well, everything's a 10 out of 10, but there's just some part of you that's got this, oh, there's a disconnect? Or were you 100% everything's thriving, let's just go?
Oh, I was definitely the first thing, the first one, because I was doing well. I had so many clients. I quit the gym and owned my own personal training business, and a lot of them followed me, and it was great. And I would, get my workouts in and post it on Facebook and show everyone this is what I'm doing. But really, though, that disconnect was very much there because I didn't have the flexibility that people that I admired had. I
Mm.
was too rigid. I had this rigidity, and I thought this is not right. This is something needs to change. Like I never traveled, never. And everyone, my clients come back, tell me about their trips, because I'm too afraid, because I was too afraid and I just got back from my baby moon, so so that was really great. But yeah, like 2 days ago. But yeah, so I didn't travel. I brought all my own food to restaurants with people. I had to schedule my eating times.
Mhm.
And whenever I ate, I was never full. I just thought this is not how other people are living. This is not what life is about. So I did feel that way, but I just allowed all of the goodness that I was doing with my productivity and my successful business to just swallow that up. And I just said, well, that's fine. I'll ignore that. So I did feel that way. And you phrased that so well, like about your body being your business card. And you know people are going to look at you and say, well, you're really fit, so you must get, so I'm that means that I'm going to look like that if
Mm.
if I do what you're doing.
Well, and I know
And
a big
so
chain,
yeah.
a level up in my recovery. So before I actually took on my recovery journey, I remember maybe the year before I got married, I started letting my female clients know I didn't have a period. Like I went from no one knows this to,
Yeah.
oh, Jade, I just want to be like, but yeah, look, I don't have a period, so I'm not sure. Sure you do. And I
Yeah.
started, it was this weird, out of nowhere, I just started owning it. And instead of going like, yeah, yeah, you can be like me, exactly, like you can do whatever you want, rah, rah, I went to this, oh, look, you can, but like, here's the downside. And I remember so many times I got this, oh, like a real sadness, like, Jade, you don't have a period. And I was like, no, 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 it's fine. It's fine. It's just the training and the dieting. Like, it's no big deal. Because, you're on fast forward all the time. So every emotional response is really, really fast.
Right.
And after I started to realize that what I thought was inspiring people also wasn't as much as what I believed it to be, if that makes sense. So I thought the only reason I
Right.
had value was because of the way I looked. And then I started dropping this bombshell to people: I don't have a period. And then they still kept training with me. They still kept asking me for advice. They still kept doing all these things. And I thought, oh, they've got good reason to potentially discredit me because maybe I don't know it all. I mean, I've lost my period over it. And it turns out there's still value. And I remember little things like that happening that made me think more about my perception of the world. Did
Okay.
you have any experiences like that when you started to make training and nutrition changes, where perhaps you were almost testing people's response? Because I look back now and I feel like I was testing them to see what they'd say, because I wasn't sure if it was safe or not to recover or to stay as I was. Did you ever have anything like that?
Oh my gosh, 100%. I could have said everything that you just said. I mean,
Are we
yes,
the same person?
exactly. I know. Yeah, you were the same. Well, we're both trainers too. And I'm so blessed because my clients, they are like my social life. Like I've been training so many of them for 3, 4, 5 years now. And it's like, it's just wonderful, the connections that we have. And so these are people who respect me for who I am, and I respect them, and our relationships have grown, that I started off with those people who I had known for the longest time and just said, I don't have a menstrual cycle. And I've been doing a lot of reading about it. And um, I need to gain some weight because I want to have a baby at some point. And it's sad though that many women only recover their periods because they want to have a baby. Um, but I do believe that at some point there will be some motivating factor. And for me and other many women, that is mine. And so I just said, and I want to have a baby, and you will notice I will be gaining more weight. I'm very vulnerable right now. But this is what's happening. And all of them supported me. All of them just gave me support and just said, well, we never only liked you for your body anyway. We like you for your knowledge. And it was all stuff I probably already knew, yet wanted to
Yeah.
hear it, because to me, my body was my identity. What am I without fitness? Like, what is it? What? Just like, what am I without wearing Nike clothes and going to the gym? And I don't know. Let's find out. Who was Ladore? So I went on that big journey and listened to your podcasts every day on my walks when I wasn't working out. But yes, I absolutely did. And then I started telling the male clients about it, because most men either have a wife or a daughter or something in
Yeah.
their life, and we're just humans. They'll understand. And so um, really, in my family, everyone just supported me and understood. And I did get occasional comments from close people who just didn't understand the details of HA, which is totally fine because you can't expect people to understand it right away. And they would say stuff like, I'm sure you don't have to really stop exercising. You can just tone it down a little bit. Maybe just do 20 minutes less. And I'm thinking, well, when you've had HA for 11 years, you got to change your lifestyle. I mean, there needs to be at least an initial period of rest. So
And even
yeah,
just on the
and
cognitive front, though, to know that you can do it, right? Because there's the element that women can recover doing some level of exercise, but I think there's such a big teaching in being able to just take a week off or a month off. And I know
right,
anyone, some of well, the ladies listening
I
will,
was never able
how
to do
dare you
that.
say I take a week off or a month off? It's okay. It
Yeah,
takes time to get to that spot. But even if you're in the position where you can recover your cycle while training, there is so much power in just knowing you can take a week off and everything's okay. So I think there's an added level of
absolutely.
healing that comes, because I don't know, there's almost this mentality of how much can I get away with and still recover? Can I diet just a little bit and still recover? Can I train just a
Right.
little bit and still recover? And it almost feels a bit
Can I do it without
cheeky or
gaining weight?
sneaky. Can
Yeah,
I, yeah, like what can I do? And it's kind of that toe in, toe out. And it is part of the process. I think every woman will go through how much can I get away with and still recover. But there is magic in knowing that you can take a week off, a month off, and the world is not going to crumble. I feel like I've slingshot you forward to like the tail end of your recovery. So I'm going to bring us back a little bit to when you started having the red flags of maybe I don't want to do this lifestyle anymore. I've had enough. I've learned about what HA is. I want to have a baby. What were your initial thoughts when you learned that the way out of HA is these diet and training changes?
So yeah, it was about a year ago in April, and I decided that something is off and something is not right. And I had gotten off the birth control pill and still did not have a period. And I knew that there was work to be done. I had always known about HA without knowing the name of it. I think all those years ago, 11 years ago when it started, I was reading online some things and came across what ended up being HA. And I got so afraid of it that I shut the computer and said, no,
Throw it
I
away.
can't do this. Yeah, yeah, you throw it away. Anything but that. Exactly. Like, no, no, no. This can't be. I just started getting a really good body. And that was the start of when my period went away. And then 11 years later, here I am. I already got married. I looked great in my wedding dress. I know that now I was trying to have a baby, and obviously you need your period, but then I started reading about the health benefits, or just more so the health of having a period, why it's healthy for a woman to have a period, for bone density and for hair health and skin. And, all of these issues that I had been having, there was a light bulb moment that they were because of HA. They were because of HA. I had a heart rate that was super low in the 40s. I had insomnia. My hair was thinning. I could see my scalp. I was peeing a lot. I was always cold. And I just didn't think that this was all from the same thing. And when I learned more about it, I just felt like, well, now there is no way that I can keep on going knowing what I'm doing to myself. I mean, it was too serious to ignore. So just
Especially
a
when
big wake
you
up call.
consider yourself as a health conscious person, right? Like often half the
Absolutely.
reason we
All in the
end up
pursuit
with
of health is how
HA
I
is
did.
the pursuit
Yeah,
of health. And then suddenly we
right,
realize, hang on, our choices are actually not helping us accelerate our health. It's not helping us be healthy
right.
at all. And there is a bit of a glass shattering moment because if your value system is health and you've learnt that you're not upholding that, you kind of feel obligated to make sure you are now. And that can be so confronting
Oh
because
yeah.
it's a complete change of direction, even though you now know that what you need to do. Um, did you feel really conflicted with the information? Like you said originally, it was kind of like shut the laptop, throw it at the door. But at some point,
Yeah.
obviously, you've opened up the laptop again and started reading more.
Right.
Where was the path of least resistance for you? What did you feel you had the most power to change straight up versus other areas where perhaps you needed a little bit of warming up before you could make change?
Wow, that's a great question. So I felt like I could add in more macronutrients, more fats, more carbs, just more food. But the exercise, I know this is common, but the exercise, it was so hard for me to want to take that out because I just felt like, what is my purpose of the day if I didn't exercise? I hadn't taken a rest day in like 4 years at one point in my
And what are you going
journey.
to do
That's
with all the time? You're
right.
training
Yeah,
4 hours a
exactly.
day.
Yeah,
That's a long time to fill
that's
in.
a lot.
It's a
I
long
know,
time
like
to think
every
about not
day.
training.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Long time to think about it. And the thing is, I never even got burnt out with my training. I never got like, oh, I'm doing this just because I have to. Every day I was just as passionate as the last day. And I had so much energy, but that's because I was obsessed and really obsessed. And so what was your question again? I just totally forgot.
No, not at all. It's when you started learning all this information on areas of your life that you needed to change, what was the path
Oh,
of least
right.
resistance for you? So you said food was the easiest. You started adding in some new nutrients,
Yes.
but the training was a
Yeah.
bit of a at a standstill, perhaps.
Food, yes, food was the easiest, but it still was not easy. I wouldn't say any of this journey came easy to me, but but my husband is very, very supportive, and he lifted weights with me. We're workout partners, and he even saw me weighing every almond on the scale and stuff. And he just was like, "Hey, babe, I accept you for who you are, and if you don't want to go out to eat to restaurants, then we won't go out." Like he just is the perfect husband ever. And so he kind of had enabled me to be this way because no one put me in my place, but he helped me make the food easier because he's a normal person. He's enjoying all this food. And when I come out and say to him, "Hey, this is what I have to do," and I'm really anxious about it, um, then we would make meals together and he would cook for me, and I was now releasing control, letting someone else cook, even though it's my own husband, but still I never did that before. And it became something that we could do. Another thing in our relationship that we could do, we could eat dinner together as we watch a movie on a Friday night, or just whatever it was, or even go out to a restaurant. And it made it easier because I had his support of saying, "Hey, you're trying to do this and I see you, so I will do it with you." And I just that was everything. So
That's
yeah.
so beautiful because I think so often we think this journey is going to be isolating and then it's going to tear us apart
Hmm.
from loved ones. I know me personally, John and I, my husband, we met at the gym. We bonded over training
Same.
together, over dieting together and doing photo shoots and
Yeah.
like diet talk and training talk. And obviously we had other things in common, but that was a big foundation. And we had just
Right.
gotten married. And I remember at one part of me going, what happens if this ruins us? Like me
Yeah.
stepping away from what made us. What if it ruins us? And I remember being so sad, thinking that like this could be really awful. But now when I think about it, what makes me really sad is to think that I had that thought in the first place
Yeah.
because we're so much more than that. And not for a second would we go and get a divorce because I stopped training or gained or my weight changed. But I remember having such a heavy heart. And to your point of actually letting your husband in and letting him cook for you and sharing the experience with you, I remember one of the most powerful things he said to me was, if I had to do it, I couldn't, right? Which someone might see that and go, oh, that's not really supportive. But it really gave me the power of going, what I'm doing is hard. And I appreciate you can see it's hard, right?
Right.
Because it is a really hard journey. And there was something about that comment that, like, oh, I'm not sure I could or I would do it, that really accelerated everything. So, in your scenario, you're saying your husband coming in and now cooking for you, taking you out for dinner,
Right.
that was your accelerator. And for me, hearing like what you're doing is really hard, I was like, yeah, here it is hard because it kind of
Yeah,
falls in
like
that
I'm
A
a
type thing.
badass. Right.
Yeah, like this
Yeah,
sucks and I'm owning
definitely.
it. But
Absolutely.
it's,
But I totally relate to you. Like we met in the gym, we worked out every day together, we learned new exercises together,
yes.
we, built the garage gym that I train in together and everything. And so I was like, this is a really big deal. Like this is our main thing. Like everyone knows us as that gym couple. We're always the couple in the gym. We share the same machines. We do it all. So like I know what you mean about, is
Yeah, it's
this
like,
going to
what
ruin
will
us?
I
And then
be and what
later,
will we be?
right. And
Yeah.
what will we be? And now he's also losing his partner too. But I think he was just so happy for me that I was going through so much growth and whatnot. And so that was good. But it was really triggering to watch him go to the gym alone.
It's hard.
Um, in the way beginning. Yeah. And he would put on his knee sleeves and I knew it meant leg day.
Mm.
Or, he would do that. And I was just like, I'm not there with you for leg day. Like, this is
So
not
I
okay.
actually
Yet,
love this because I'm
yeah.
not sure I've had this conversation with anyone on the podcast before. And I remember at one point, because I believe honesty is the best policy for anything. And I remember saying
Hmm.
to my husband, because he was still training 2 times a day when I was going through HA recovery. And it was such a tease watching him get ready to go to the gym because
Oh,
I just
yeah.
wanted to go. And the
Such a tease.
emotions, like, I don't like I'm not a jealous person, but I was jealous. I'm like, why do you get to go and I can't? Obviously, I knew why. But
I
at
knew.
one
Yeah,
point, I said to him, I'm like, we're normally used to having a training debrief at dinner, right? Because that's what we did. And
that's
I'd
cute.
say to him, I don't want you to think that I'm pissed or I'm angry at you, but I can't ask you about your training at the moment. Because if I ask it, I'm not being sincere because I really don't want to know. And it kind of hurts me to talk about your training when I know I can't do it. And he was just like, oh, cool, no worries. Because it made it easier to know where we stood versus me going, how's training? And my heart's in my throat because I'm sad.
Oh,
And honestly, it didn't last very long. It lasted maybe a month before I was like,
hmm.
it's no big deal, whatever.
Yeah,
Did
it just
you?
goes out of sight, out of
It just
mind,
kind of goes
quicker
away.
than
So
you think.
it was
Right,
heavy and hard, and then it just went
right.
away. Did you have anything like that where you had to say to your husband or your partner at the time, um, can you kind of not make it so obvious
Oh
you're
yeah.
training, or could if you hit a PB, I honestly I am happy for you, but if I don't celebrate it, we're good. I just need a
Yeah,
minute. Did you
exactly.
have
We're
any
good.
conversations
Yeah,
like that?
absolutely. Like I used to have a schedule of every day because we worked out together what it would be. So back day, chest, legs, arms, and so we would look at the schedule and see what I've written and what we were going to do. And it would go in a rotation. And now as he was leaving, a bit of me wanted to ask out of routine, what are you going to do today? Because I wasn't there to schedule it because I planned it for us. And he liked that I planned it. I'm a good planner. But I just had to bite my tongue because I didn't. It's best if I just don't even know. Because if I can't do it, then I don't want to know. I
Yeah, no,
mean,
I
because
do.
what if
I
he says
totally
back?
get it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And like, what if he says back day? And I'm just imagining pull-ups, all the pull-ups that I'm not doing right now. It's like I can't do that. I have to just focus on something else. So I started coloring, and there's adult coloring books,
Yeah.
and that was one of those things that you do to like ease your mind. But it never took all my worries away. It just gave me something else to do. But
It's sometimes
yeah,
distraction is key because I think that's,
oh, it's so
it's a key
much.
element. HA recovery isn't forever. It's a stage or it's an experience is probably the nicest way to put it. It's an experience. It's not permanent, right? Especially if
Right.
you're actively making decisions to better yourself every day. If you're only just thinking about it can last a really long time. So you're not taking any action
Yeah,
steps. But for the most part, some of the strategies you implement in that time is really just to distract yourself until you're ready to kickstart life again, right? So
absolutely.
you had an incredibly fast recovery. You had 11 years of HA. And can I ask, were you having bleeds when you were on the pill? Like, I know it's a fake period, but were you getting any blood or were you
Um,
no period at all?
so that's a great question. So at first, I was getting blood, and it was about, 1 or 2 days worth, and it was like enough to fill a tampon. Then I started working out even harder. And so this is interesting because it goes with my workout pattern. Started working out even harder throughout the years, and um, it got lighter, but it was still there. But I didn't ever need a tampon. I just saw it on the toilet paper and said, "Well, there's
There
my
it
period." It
is.
was like spotting.
Yeah.
And then when I started working out twice a day, it went away for good. And I knew in my guilty conscience, this is not okay. So I went to the doctor again and said, all scared and timid, walking on eggshells, that she told me I have to eat more fat and rest more. And I said, I have a very strict training regimen and I'm not getting my pill bleed anymore. Is that okay? And she said, oh, yeah, as long as you're taking it, it's fine. It just means you have a thin uterine lining. It's fine, which, by the way, is not healthy. But anyway, so she said, it's fine. And I like her. I liked her, but I just think that research is behind on this. A lot of research is, but I mean, not research, but like medical, like a lot
They
of medical
don't know. Yeah.
facilities. Yeah, they don't know, and they're trained to do is put you on medicine.
Mm.
So they're not going to tell you what an HA recovery diet looks like. They're just going to put you on something to get the quick fix, especially here in America. So anyway, I lived about my life, and then I got COVID in 2021, I think. And so I had no bleed for years. I got COVID in 2021 and I have asthma. So it just wiped me off my feet. And I couldn't do anything for about 2 weeks, which was something I'd never done in my life. And it was absolutely just the hardest thing for me. And I was sick as a dog. And then what do you know? That period came back, that fake bleed came back from having such a low key month. And I told myself, I made a pact to myself that I wouldn't ever work out twice a day again, because this is a sign that my body needed that. But I still was on the pill, and I still had very much was deep into HA, and I even made my once a day workouts even harder to make up for the twice. So there was still a lot of problems there, but I got to see how my body responded to
And
that.
quite quickly though,
And
you're
yeah,
too, like,
yeah,
I know
yeah,
you were quite,
quite
because you were
quickly. Yeah.
sick. So there's still a stressor there. And in
Right.
2 weeks of
Absolutely.
rest and being bedbound from being, feeling awful, to
Yeah.
have that,
And then,
even
and
though,
then coming back
yes, it's
to,
a fake bleed,
right.
your body still built the lining. So
It
that's
was
really interesting to
amazing.
me. Yeah. And
I know.
what a huge signal to
What a
you
huge
of
signal.
like, hey,
Lots of introspection.
yeah. So what
Like,
happened
hey, I'm
after?
here right around the corner.
Like
Yeah.
literally, I'm just waiting to kind of be like, hello, let me heal.
Yeah.
So what happened from there? You dropped your training down to 1 hour a week, but I mean, sorry, 1 hour a day. Though I'd imagine there's more supersets. Maybe you've added in some cardio.
Well, yeah.
You've
Well,
done
it was
something to
once a day.
compensate from the two
Exactly.
to the one.
The two workouts. Yeah. It was one workout a day, but the workout was like almost 3 hours long,
Okay, so
because
we've
I
only
was like,
dropped an
well, I
hour.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I only dropped an hour, and I was even restricting food even more.
to make up for the
And
fact you dropped the hour.
yeah, to make up for it, but it was still there. But it was still very light. It was a spot. It
Mhm.
was spotting. But I was like, I remember this. And um like, our bodies want to reproduce. Our bodies want to do what we're made to do. They really do. And when we try to get this body from society and all that, we're trying to go against what our body is made of. um, it's just wild when you look at it that way. But I was always thicker bodied as a child, and people would never believe me in my HA days that I was, because I was just so small and muscular, just very lean. But when I started incorporating rest and nourishment into my routine, I mean, into my life, I bounced back like crazy and gained 30 pounds, and really got that same exact thicker body back. And it was also um, something that I came to realize that this is my set point. This is what my body wants, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just like how the period came back, the fake period came back when I was sick. It's like, this is what the body is trying to do. And so I bounced back so quick, because health is right there. There is health, it is around the corner. And it's amazing what my body has done for me.
And just to highlight as well, so you had 11 years of HA. When you decided, all right, I'm doing this, I'm going all in on recovery. And I'll get you to define what all in on recovery meant for you, because I truly
Hmm.
believe it is different for everybody. But
For
you did
everyone,
get your
yeah.
period back within 3 months, which is a
With
huge
Yes.
turnaround, which I find that 2 weeks of COVID so interesting, because it, as you said so beautifully, it was just around the corner. Like, your body has been wanting this. And I think that's a really positive message for the ladies listening, is that it's so easy to think our body hates us because it's not letting us have a period
Hmm.
while we're training. Like, why won't you just let me have both? And it's not letting you have both because it's not good for you to have both. Right? That's the message behind it. So as soon as you make the changes that will actually let you live a long, flourishing, healthy life, you will get your period, and whatever weight that may be. You've had this epiphany, all right, I've got to get my period back. I want to be a mum. I want to have a baby. What did you do?
So you mean like when I went all in?
Yeah. What's your all in? What
Um,
did you do?
yeah. So I did not lift a single weight, because I didn't even know if I had it in me to, quote unquote, take it easy. What does that even mean? What the hell does that mean? If I can't do what I want to do, it's a waste of time, is how I was in my extreme state. So, and which is very different than right now. But anyway, so I didn't lift any weights, and I just walked. and did yoga. And I walked and I did yoga, and there are many, so I'm not going to put anyone down here because there's so many different approaches that are so helpful, but there are many resources that you can find on, hypothalamic amenorrhea recovery that will say you need to eat cake and you need to eat, you know, pasta, and you need to eat, I don't know, cookies and ice cream, and this is how it's done. This is how to do it. And I just didn't think that that was something that I needed to do because I didn't even have any fat or carbs in my diet anyway. All I ate was protein, which by the way was very hard on my kidneys. But so I just thought to myself, everyone is coming from a different spot. If I just add in these calories, it might not matter where they're coming from. So I added in avocados and dark chocolate and cheese and quinoa and sweet potatoes and bread and sprouted grain bread and nuts. And that's how I did it the whole time. And I don't find that it was necessary for me to eat processed carbs. Now, I mean processed food. Now that didn't mean that I never got recovered in terms of my disordered eating, because I found that I was much more relaxed when I was offered something like cookies. And I decided, you know what? Right now, I do want cookies. I didn't have that anxiety. Just because I had chose to eat very clean doesn't mean that I was still categorizing it all black and white. I just thought, hey, as this as this orthorexic perfectionist person that I am, if I'm going to nourish myself, I'm going to nourish myself with everything I missed out on. So all these things that are so healthy, yet I wasn't eating before. So ate a lot of that. I probably ate around 5,000 calories a day, which is a lot. But when you have this much muscle on your body and you're this deprived, you need a lot of calories. And so I was putting that into my fitness pal at first because it was a comfort. It was a control that I could see all the calories I was eating, even though I knew what was going to be. I just wanted to see it. And I went to a therapist for recovery and who specialized in this and eating disorder recovery. And she said, you have to stop. You're controlling it too much. Just, eat because you want to eat. So I got over that. And yeah, so just walking, yoga, and just eating. I mean, I ate a lot. Like I had so much extreme hunger. I would eat something like a whole, you know, um like 4 servings maybe of nuts, all the calories, and just think I am still so hungry. 4 slices of bread, I'm starving. It was like I needed to fill that extreme hunger, and I'd always heard that the extreme hunger would go away at some point, and I was really hoping it would, and I'm so glad that it did. Eventually I just said, okay, I get it. Food is good. I'm going to keep eating this. I'm not going into another famine again. So my body doesn't have to keep, trying to store as much as it can. So
And that
it was
extreme
very
hunger can
interesting
be
going through
quite
all those
scary
phases.
because it does sometimes feel like you're
Very
a
scary.
bottomless pit. Like, is this ever
Out
going
of
to end?
control.
And I
Yeah.
can really relate
Hmm.
to your example with the nuts because, funnily enough, I did the same thing. I wanted to eat relatively clean. And for me, because my fear foods and eating disorder stuff at that point were gone. Like, I just wasn't having cake because I didn't want it and I didn't like it versus
Right.
not having it because I'm
Oh
terrified.
no. Yeah. I
There's
just
such a
didn't
big
want it. It
difference.
didn't look
Yeah.
good.
And if you
Yeah.
don't want it, don't force yourself. Like, but that's where,
Right.
yeah, that's a story for another day, maybe little.
Right.
Um, but
Yes.
but I do remember being able to polish off like half a bag of nuts and eat them how I'd watch other
Oh
people
yeah.
eat chips, right? Because chips has never really been my thing either. And being like, oh my gosh, I've had like half a bag. Like I can ballpark, I've had probably 2,000 calories in nuts in 5 minutes, and I'm still starving.
Yeah.
And I remember like
Still
wrapping the
so
bag up and
hungry.
throwing it in the back of the pantry and just going for a walk or something. So I need to put the brakes on. And it wasn't a binge, anyone listening, it wasn't an out of control eating. I was very casually, calmly eating nuts, thinking they're calorie dense, they'll fill me. That's why I chose
Right.
them.
But it was just the
And
capacity to
and
be
it
able to eat
didn't
that
fill
much.
me.
Right.
And I remember thinking, gosh, it's this kind of, I don't like this sensation of not being able to be full, which is a bit ironic when you're always hungry anyway, because the sensation sometimes changes. When you're dieting, you're always hungry, but all of a sudden it switches
Yeah.
to I can't be full. And you think it's the same sensation, but it's
Yeah.
not. Because I liked
It's different.
being hungry and owning it, where this was like, I can't fill the gap. That feels scary to me.
Exactly. Like it, yeah. Like when I was restricting, I had a fear of being full. I was like,
Yeah.
I'll do anything but be full. I want to always feel light. I want to always be able to eat a meal and then see my abs. Yet now it was like, what can I do to be full, please? I just want to be full. It was so funny. Yeah, exactly.
And then
So
one
it
day I
really
just
was. But
realized I wasn't thinking about food. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm full. Because I didn't actually, that's how for me, I realized I would finally met the criteria for what my
right.
body needed, is I wasn't sitting there going, what do I eat next? What do I eat next? And I wasn't sitting there trying to
Mhm.
think of the next move. Instead, I realized I was just focused, and out of nowhere, I had this food thought, which was I was ready to eat again. And I was like, oh my
Right.
God, I've done it. I've done it. Like I haven't been thinking about food for the last hour, and I didn't know
Like it
until I
happened.
actually
Right.
thought about food. What was it
Right.
like for you transitioning from this like crazy amount of hunger to actually going, oh my gosh, I had a break from food and I'm not thinking about it.
Right. Yeah. And the funniest thing for me is I feel like I actually still think about food a lot, but not in the same way. I think that I constantly think, oh, what am I going to have for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner?
Mm.
After I'm done eating, I'm already thinking about the next just because I can finally enjoy. And I think I'm just such a food enthusiast. I think my whole family is. We're just the type that always think about what's the next meal. So I think that that part it changed to be more of an exciting thing. But what I did notice the difference of from one day to the next, like a flip of a switch, was that I could go longer periods without food and be okay. Whereas before, if I was out and I was out for 3 or 4 hours, oh my gosh, forget it. I'm gonna feel faint. I need something right now. I need to grab almonds out of my purse, anything. Whereas now I'm like, I actually ate a really sustaining meal. So if I'm out of the house, like I don't like I used to come home in between every single errand because I couldn't do them back to
To
back
quickly
because I
pick
would
up
just
something.
starve.
Yes.
Right. Because I was too and what I would end up eating would be like carrots. It wasn't enough. That's why. So now I'm like, you know what? I'm satiated for the first time. And so that's how I felt like I'm satiated, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Like I'm
I
not
love that
always
you
thinking
brought
about
that
it in a
point up. It's
hungry
like the
way.
reason you need to have something to eat every hour is because you
Yeah, because I
haven't met
wasn't
the
sustainable.
criteria. If you actually meet the
Right.
criteria in one meal, you will get 3 to 4 hours back. Because that's pretty common
You
for
will.
most humans, is that in waves, every
Yeah.
3 to 4 hours, you'll get hungry.
Right.
Because we all like to
And I
think
felt
we're
like,
kind of unique with our food. No, 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 but I'm different because I get hungry every hour. I get hungry
right.
every 8 hours. Like we get this kind of sassiness to
Yeah,
us about how we are. And the
absolutely.
reality is, once you're actually refed and nourished, for the most part, we all function quite similar. And our hunger comes in waves of 3 to 4 hours. Obviously, distractions. If you're
Right.
out at a theme park and you're on roller coasters and things, you might not get hungry. If you're at work or you're studying,
You might
because you're
not.
you might.
Right.
Of course, there's variables, but if you're looking at a very broad, casual day, most humans as a whole, even children, will have waves of hunger that are 3 to 4 hours,
Right.
especially if your glucose
And
is well regulated too.
oh yeah, yeah, that too. And this is like totally unrelated. I just don't want this to end without me saying this, but in this pregnancy, I have been craving things that I never thought I would eat. Things that do not have high volume, white bread and pasta and chocolate. I I have been allowing myself to enjoy, not over. I mean, I know because it's a good craving when you have it and then you feel like you're fulfilled. And it doesn't give me any anxiety that it used to. I see it as a form of healing of if this is food for my baby and for my pregnancy, this is healing. And like in a way, I do think less about food in that way because I'm not anxious around it anymore. Even when I got put to the test of eating things that were not so healthy, I don't eat those all the time, but like what I'm saying is that I have in the pregnancy, not every day, but I have. So
Yes.
yeah.
And ladies, if you're sitting there going, hang on, pregnancy, baby, what? Yes, you are hearing correct. Ladore went from 11 years of HA to
Oh
recovered
yeah. I
in
didn't
three
mean to ruin
months.
that.
That was a great surprise. I love it. To
Okay.
recovered in 3 months to 12 weeks pregnant, which is incredible and
Yes.
such a testament to your body wants to have a cycle. It wants to fall pregnant. Like it wants it so much more than you could ever realize. It's just,
Yes.
I like to think of it. Know how we've all got those droopy plants in our house that they're not about to die, but they go all real sad when they haven't had some water. And then you give them one
Yeah.
cup of water, and within 2 hours, they're like all perked up again. Our bodies are kind of the same. Like they're just so
Yeah, we
thirsty for
are.
nourishment. And then as soon as you give it what it wants, it will thrive.
It
Can
will.
you tell us what was the time delay or the time, not delay? What was the gap between you getting your period back and falling pregnant?
Yes. So it was 7 cycles. And well, I conceived on the seventh. So I had 6 periods, but each period was so different. The first one was just a day long and it was just spotting. But I had a confirmed ovulation test. Yet the luteal phase was so short, it was like 6 days. And so then next thing you know, within just a few weeks later, I'm getting my next or no, it took a long time to get my next period. And that was also a very short luteal phase. So I'm ovulating and then immediately getting my period. And that one was also really light. And I was told, just keep doing what you're doing. Your body is learning to build its uterine lining again. And then on the third period, I went to a wedding with my husband, and I was like, "Oh, this is so great! Like, I'm gonna get drunk. Like, this is gonna be awesome." And then when I was sitting in the ceremony, I was like, "I don't feel good. Something is going on. I don't know if I'm going to throw up or have diarrhea or what, but this is not okay." And I went to the bathroom, and it was the heaviest period since I was like
Oh
a teenager.
no.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm getting
Oh
my period."
no.
And
But
yes,
like
and
amazing,
then
but
I
just the wedding setting is
amazing. Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. And I was in this beautiful long dress that I was borrowing from my mom. But of course she was so happy for me.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my God. And there was, and I, because I had thought that my period wasn't working, because it was the luteal phase was short. I was only getting such spotting. So if there's anyone here listening to this podcast who's just starting to get their periods back and it is not at all what you thought it would be, that I'm here to tell you that that's how it starts, but you're doing everything right to even be at where you are. This is so emotional. But yeah, so I was in the bathroom of the place with the wedding and I asked the girl in the stall next to me, can I have a tampon? And she gave it to me. And I said, thank you so much. Like she didn't know what I was
it
going
meant like
through.
the world to
So
you, like
I know it
the
meant the
holy
world.
tampon.
I know I almost forgot how to use it. I
Oh
know it was
gosh,
so funny.
I
And
love
then,
it.
and then I know, and then my periods were um, normal flow, but my ovulation was always very late. So I was having around 45-day cycles, and my uterine lining came out very thin on an ultrasound. And then I consulted you about how to add back in workouts just for health, for movement, for knowing that I already have my period back, but I don't want to risk. I don't want to
I don't want to
jeopardize my
scare it
cycle. It's
off.
already long. Exactly. I don't want to scare it off. And so you helped me just by telling me, 2 workouts a week that are 45 minutes, or no, 1 workout a week that's 45 minutes, or 2 that are 30 minutes, and just see how it does, see how your cycle goes, see how it responds. And I was like, but I need a formula.
Mm.
Like, this is not okay. I can't just wait and see. But I did, because that's the human body. You have to wait and see. You were right. And I saw what it looked like to cycle, more regularly with workouts. And I saw what it looked like to add in one too many workouts a week and say, oops,
Mm.
that was really light. And I
Yeah.
emailed you about that one time too. And then it got better when I toned it down again. So on my seventh cycle, I was just convinced that my husband had a sperm issue, because I was just like, this is not me. I'm cycling now. And so I was just getting on his case too much about like going in the sauna and smoking weed, all that type of stuff that you can read about. And then when what do you know, all during that time, had been pregnant without knowing. So that was really amazing. Yeah.
I wonder if
So
part of him
yes,
was
on the
like, I
seventh
told you my
one.
sperm's fine.
Yeah, exactly. I
Back
told
off
you it's
my
fine. But
sauna.
definitely. But for any women out there listening, like I had long cycles. I had like 45-day cycles. My uterine lining was thin. My ovulation was late. I barely had any fertile cervical mucus, but it was there in the slightest. And look, I still got pregnant. So every woman's body is different. Every woman's body is different, you know, and so it, you're doing your body's on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, the ovulation's the star player, right? So you can have strange lengths, you can
Yeah.
have small bleeds, heavier bleeds, you can have all those things between. Obviously, we are striving to get a more consistent, predictable cycle. Yes. But if you've just gotten your cycle back, as you so beautifully explained, there's going to be variation, but it doesn't mean you're broken, right? I like to look at it as
Right.
though your body's learning to ride a bike again. It's got the capacity to push on the pedals. It knows how to hold steering wheels. It just needs to find the momentum and then you're fine, which is what you experienced. It was kind of like pushing against these pedals. It was a bit chunky and grindy, but it was still making
Absolutely.
movement, just not as smooth as it could.
It's still
And
making movement.
now,
Yeah.
and now you're just, I don't know, you're on a spin bike, and not a spin bike because that's stationary.
I
But
know. I
you're
know.
you're moving fast in a positive direction. What an incredible story. What an incredible journey. I feel like I could just talk to you. I'm looking at the time now, being like, we've spoken for an hour and I'm not
I
done.
know.
Like, I want to keep going. But what a wild adventure. 11 years of HA, 3 months all in to recover. And as you said, your all in was walking and yoga. Another realm where I feel like we are the same person, because that was my all in
Right.
as well. And then now you sit in front of me growing a little human in your
I know.
belly. Like,
I know. A little
how
human.
magic. How magic.
It's so magical. Sometimes I'm like, is there really a baby in there? But I feel like when I start showing, it will feel like, oh, yes, there is. Even though I know there is, but it's just like, I just can't believe it. It's
Mhm.
so unreal. Did you ever feel that way? It's so unreal.
Casima in particular, it was just this wild ride of, I can't believe it. Because when my period returned, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did it. It was one of the hardest things I ever
Yeah.
did, was getting my period back. And then obviously I had the idea of falling pregnant, but I wasn't really big on the LH strips and predictor kits and things like
Yeah.
that. I was kind of like, oh, if I see the cervical mucus, I'll kind of just go with it.
Yeah.
And then when I fell pregnant, I just remember thinking how much I underestimated how magic our bodies are. Like,
Hmm.
all I needed to give it was a
So magic.
foundation. That's all I needed. And for the longest time, I took pride from smashing it, right? And don't get me wrong, it
Yeah.
was fun. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't
I'm
change
smashing
it.
it. That's
I wouldn't
exactly
change it.
right.
I really did love it. It helped create the person who I am today and what I stand for and all those things. But then I fell pregnant, and it was just, I really can't explain how I felt about it, but I suddenly went from thinking my body was kind of like a tool that I had power over, to being actually connected with it. Like, we're in unison. It is body and mind, and
Like working together, not
we're working
against.
together. It's not me. Oh, look, the best way I can say it, it's not the nicest way to say it, but if you've got a pet, right, that you love, but you still train it, sit, stay, when to have dinner, when to go outside. That's kind of how I felt about my body. It was like, I tell you what to do and you do it. And now it's not
Right.
that relationship. It's like a team effort all the time. I don't know if I can even explain
It
it, but
is.
yeah. And then I fell pregnant with Casima, and it just confirmed how magic our body is. And I just wanted to communicate it with as many women as possible, that
Yeah.
if we care for it the way we know we need to, or how we're learning to do,
Yeah. It will do what we
the
want it to
magic
do.
happens. The magic happens. And
It's
trust. You've
so
just got to
amazing.
trust that it
Yeah.
wants
You
to fall
have to
pregnant.
trust. Yeah.
It's
Right.
it's
When I
such a
was
huge
trying to
part.
conceive, when we were trying to conceive, I kept taking ovulation tests every single day. Sometimes I was obsessing, sometimes twice a day, and they were always negative. And I was like, God, it's not working. And I was like not letting nature do its work.
Mhm.
And I was like, when am I finally going to ovulate? Like Jesus. And then after I did ovulate for a few cycles and I knew what it felt like and what it was, I no longer needed to take the test. I actually threw them out because I have an
Mhm.
obsessive personality. So I needed them gone. And then there was the time where I said, you know what? I just feel like I'm ovulating. And we had sex, and then I took the test and said, wow, I was right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you
Love
become
it.
in tune with
You
it when you
know.
just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you
There's
can
a
actually learn
knowing.
your body,
Yeah.
right, rather than like only relying on the test and only relying on the app and only relying on it's like actually listen to what your body's telling you. It's
Mm.
so amazing. It's like having all of these resources is a gift, but it's also kind of a curse. Think about back then in the 60s and 70s. They didn't have any of this. You know,
No.
they couldn't drive themselves crazy. So, yeah,
No, and I love that you brought that up
definitely.
because it can be it become toxic when you then obsess over
Hmm.
temperatures. And look, all these data points matter. They're
Yeah,
really
temperature,
helpful to
that's a
fall
big one.
pregnant. They are helpful.
Right.
There's no doubt about it. But it's if it's dominating your emotions, it's not actually helping.
No. So definitely not. So that's why I'm not going to get one of those at home heart rate monitors where you can put it up to your belly and see what the
Oh, I
baby's
did
heart
do
rate
that
is.
with
Yeah.
Cosima. I
Oh,
did.
you
I
did?
couldn't.
Well,
Yeah, I did. But then Ruben, I was so just like
yeah.
trusting.
Well, I'm not doing it because
Um,
I know that if one thing went wrong, I'd be convinced. See, you got to know who you are. And HA taught me my whole
yeah.
journey who I am. So now I can make educated decisions and say, nope, I'm not going to get that thing because I know how I am,
That.
so yeah.
And no, I think that's a perfect place for us to finish up with the podcast. And I can't thank you enough for coming on and just sharing everything. No doubt you're an inspiration to so many women listening, and your energy is so contagious. If anyone watching the YouTube, you'll have seen Ladore has just got the most incredible smile the whole time we've been talking. I'm just like staring at this gorgeous smile in front of me, and I just want to reach out and give you a hug.
Oh, you're so sweet.
But no, thank you so much for coming on and
Oh, I'm just so
sharing.
happy
And
to be here. Yeah.
it's I'm so proud of you and the journey you've been on, and now
Thank
another wonderful
you.
journey awaits with the growth of your beautiful little baby.
Thank you,
Um,
Jade.
Thanks so much for coming on, and we will talk again soon.
Yes, thank you.